Hello, everybody. This is Joe Boston with the Dallas Real Estate Investment Group. I am here to discuss a revolutionary product that we actually have been developing at the Real Estate Investment Group to help you evaluate different opportunities when they present themselves. So, on April 29th, 2024 at 6 p.m., we're going to have a demonstration on Zoom to show you our calculator. And when I say it gives you the ability to analyze different exit strategies, I mean, we have dotted the I's and crossed the T's to make sure that it captures the majority of all different scenarios with lenders, as well as calculates real costs that you could expect to incur when you're looking at doing a fix and flip, a buy and hold, or the BRRRR strategy. And we'll kind of talk about that. And the BRRRR strategy has been around for quite some time. So that is buy, renovate, rent, and then refinance. And so you're creating the opportunity for cash flow. So we need to know exactly what all the fully burdened costs are so you know how much you're going to cash flow. And then if it meets the criteria of lenders that you're going to actually approach, it also gives you a snapshot of what all costs are incurred when you're entering into an opportunity uh, for a real estate transaction. So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a 30,000 foot level, but we were taking a deep dive into what the actual transaction costs are, and then what you could actually look at getting a return. So for flippers, how much profit will I make for each flip? How much money do I need for the flip or the project? Which a lot of times, you're entertaining an opportunity, but you don't know the actual cost of how much it's going to take to get into the project. If you use a hard money lender and a gap funder, which means funding the difference between what the lender is going to give you and the value of the offer, how there's a difference there. We call that the gap. How much will you make if you're going to be funded 100%? Because a lot of times, uh, all of us don't want to put any of our own money into the deal. So, what does that look like from a cash flow perspective? What is your return on investment? If you are going to need money, additional money, then your lender is going to provide. How much will that be? And then how do you present that to uh, your gap funder, right? So they actually have a full picture of what that's going to look like. How much money do I need at closing to start the project? A lot of times you might just think it's going to be, oh, I just need 20%. Well, there's 20% closing costs and additional costs that might be needed if you're going to take on additional loans. Uh, if the markets have dropped, should you hold and rent it out or flip it, right? So you can actually look at the different scenarios side by side. In addition to that, a lot of us are looking for return on investment or cash flow. And so for landlords, how much cash flow will you need if you're going to rent it, right? Will it make sense? And how, with the higher price points, will you yield enough for your debt service coverage? Will you actually be making enough so that your lender will actually provide the loan? If you hold the property and you just rent it for 10 years and then you sell it, how much cash flow will you make during that time? So you can actually adjust and look and analyze for just certain periods of time in the future. So if you only hold it for 10 years, or you hold it for 20 years, or if you hold it for 10 years or 2 years, so you can actually do that as well. What does the future profit projections look like? So you can analyze how much you need to hold, the property for, so that if, you need to put in a clause that says you want to hold it for a certain amount of time, or you know that you don't want to sell it for a certain amount of time. What does that look like? So that you can make an informed decision based on numbers and not just what you think in your head. Though remember, this is real estate, not feel estate. So you need to understand the numbers, and this analyzer does that. Most of the analyzers we see do it from a high level. They don't really compare side to side. They just give you, maybe it's just flip, it's not buy and hold. What does it look like if I want to do a BRRRR strategy? So we can analyze, and it can give you basically all those amortization and schedules, so you can actually have a good feel for what those numbers look like. If I hold and rent, when will I make more cash flow than if I sold it today, right? So what time and period in the future, and how long do I need to hold it, that will exceed how much I'm going to actually receive in cash today. So what is the debt service? The 1% rule, the 50% rule for a rental, we'll cover that. What if I renovate and refinance? How much will I cash flow? So we're going to talk about that as well. And it actually covers and looks at those different types of scenarios. So current landlords that are tired of renting and maybe want to transition into a different process like an owner finance, what does that look like? So if you're tired of dealing with tenants, how much would you make if you sold it versus continuing to rent it out? So we can just look at selling it as a possibility of just renting it now. So for all investors, how much will I make or the payments be from my lender? How do I compare different lender terms? So we look at different scenarios from lenders and how much you have to put down versus it's 100%. So we run through all those different scenarios. One lender has a higher interest rate and the other has a higher origination rate or fee or points. Which one's better, right? So it'll give you a comparison when you're actually vetting different lenders. You can use this tool to analyze which one's better for your particular strategy. How do I figure out what my ARV should be, right? In order to make the number that you want to make, meaning the cash flow number and the return that you want to make. And how do I figure out what my rent rate should be, right? So to get to that cash flow number, how much rent would you actually have to charge? Is it too much for your marketplace, right? Or too much for that zip code? Does it make sense, or if it's out of bounds for what you could actually receive, so that you don't make an investment on something that's not realistic? So we look at this from a number perspective on how you can drill down, look at the different scenarios so that you can make an informed decision on if you want to move forward with that investment. So again, we're going to be having a Zoom call on April 29th, 2024 at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And so you can go and register at dallasreig.com, and want to make sure that you have our website on April 29th. And we're going to be giving a demonstration on what this analyzer can do for you, and how much it will cost for you to actually have it. But this is a tool that we actually built and utilized for our investments, and thought that it would be great for investors to be able to use this. So excited for you to see this tool. We're revamping all the time to make sure that it meets the needs of different scenarios that we could actually look at when they're presented to us. So again, it's going to be April 29th at 6 p.m. We're going to be doing a demonstration of our analyzer, and you can go and register for it at dallasreig.com. We are starting to look at different scenarios because, as you know, the price points have changed. They're getting higher all the time. So you need to make really informed decisions on what you're actually approaching from an investment standpoint. And we at Dallas REIG want to make sure you're successful and that you can analyze those projects as they come available as quickly as possible. So see you on April 29th at 6 p.m.